Hi, Tom.
Emily, it's wonderful to see you. Thank you very much for welcoming me to Lisnavagh. I've got great memories about this place. It's a huge, rambling organism. It's a living creature, but it's magic too. And we're here really because of the yoga and sleep retreat, which you came up with, initiated 10 years ago, nearly to the day. A novel innovation which was, I think, has helped a lot of people over the years. So I'm here to talk about that, but I thought maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you came to be in this place where such novel, innovative things happen, because Lisnavagh is a strange place to live, I think.
Yeah, that's a good introduction. I suppose initially I came about this place because I was partying like everybody else many years ago, and then I met William, my husband, much more recently. So basically I was living in the area. I grew up in Kildare, in a kind of bloodstock kind of background, and my dad was ex-British Army officer, never wanted to leave Ireland again after having experienced some horrible battles at the end of the Second World War when he was very young, but did travel a bit. So he'd kind of done his thing and he wanted to come back and live in Ireland. So we had quite a sheltered kind of upbringing in a sense, but lovely at the same time. You know, we had ponies and all that sort of stuff. He died sadly when we were quite young, my sister and I, and my mum moved down to Cork, which was probably the best thing she ever did, because she was able to start a new life for herself, and she's still alive to this day, and she's with an equally lovely man. So we're very lucky there. And I met William quite a long time ago now, 18 years ago, and we, or I suppose we met at a party anyway, and basically we swapped business cards, which kind of reflects our reflects our relationship in a funny sort of way, because although we are very fond of each other and we love each other, we are business partners. And I hope, over the years we've made the right decisions, and we've worked well together. But I suppose when he proposed to me, I think it was a big question for me, because being naive and young and in love, you basically just want to say yes and get married and have babies and do all that sort of stuff, and then you suddenly realise, oh my God, I've got Lisnavagh. And Lisnavagh is, I'd only visited it a couple of times, so I didn't really know it at all, and I was only literally seeing it from the outside. So it was basically, I said yes. And then I said, and I will help you with Lisnavagh in the next breath. So I kind of, I gave my soul to Lisnavagh, basically, and to William.
That was interesting. So you knew what you were getting into.
I think I did subconsciously.
At the time.
Yeah, subconsciously I did, but I didn't know, if you know what I mean. I knew, but I didn't know.
Yeah. How could you?
How could you? I mean,
I'm sure William didn't know what he was getting into.
Yeah, well, he'd sort of been back here a couple of years, and he was finding it tricky enough, to be honest. So anyway, we started our married life in this house, actually, with my in-laws, which was testing. They were lovely, but there was this tricky time to come when you have to, they had to move, and we had to make big decisions, and we had to move them around, and they'd been here a long time, and those were very, very tricky years. And I wouldn't want to go back there again. They are now really happy in their house, and they live at Lisnavagh, and we see them a lot. Not at the moment, but we do see them a lot. And then we continued with our kind of mission, and had 3 babies who are now sort of getting bigger all the time, and I suppose along the way, we had feasibility studies done and all that sort of stuff, and I was working on the house all the time, thinking, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And I had help, and we came up with the plan of doing small weddings and that sort of thing. And the yoga and sleep story, that really came about. So where are we now? Yeah, we're 10 years to, as you said, nearly to the day. But a few years before that, or a year or so before that, my brother-in-law's family came to stay here from the UK, Tom Sykes' family, and they moved. They took the whole house, and they all flew in from New York and England and London and everywhere, and they just said, this is such an amazing place to get to sleep. You just sleep so well here. So they said you should set up sleep retreats. So I was just like, really?
Wow.
And they were basically saying, we sleep so well. I mean, and they are the first of many people that have said that about Lisnavagh, and how maybe it's something to do with the trees, or the silence, or the fresh air, and then sleep, and all that sort of thing. I think it's probably a combination of everything. So so basically took that kind of on board, and then I as you know, I've had a huge. I've been doing yoga practicing yoga for since I was living in London. So 20 odd years. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea.
So no, I've always been a very kind of spiritual person, and much to
religious or spiritual? No,
spiritual. My mother would be, we were brought up as Christians, and we're Church of Ireland. So went to church. We used to go to church. I was confirmed and all that sort of stuff. But I think my mum is only just realising that actually I just don't do the church thing. And I just want to be out in nature. I just want to be sitting on a rock or under a tree, and I just want to be absorbing what's around me. I don't want to be sitting in a pew in a church with lots of people around me, because I don't actually like people. No, I don't, I just don't like having nosy Parkers knowing what I'm doing all the time, and look at her, or
the paparazzi rather than friends.
Friends is one thing, but even with weddings going on here, I kind of hide in the background a lot. So anyway, so I've always been quite spiritual. So I was practicing yoga in London right through my years there. So that was, I was there for 10 years. And I kind of fell upon it, I suppose. I had a couple of teachers. I can't remember what kind of yoga it was, but it was a very, very peaceful place to be in such a chaotic city. So,
and you were running your own business at the time, weren't you? You started up a business.
I did start a business. Running,
so it must have been quite intense having the business being in London. And where does one find peace in that life? Exactly.
So you want to, and you maybe don't want to go back and see your flatmates. You just want to be anonymous. That's what I really loved about London and London life, and especially yoga, is you could be anonymous, and nobody knew what you were doing, and you were able to be who you were. So I got really into the yoga in London, and basically came back here with my business. Actually, it was still going at that stage, but I realised pretty quickly that I was going to have to let it go, because Lisnavagh was taking over my life very quickly. And really, I suppose the yoga and sleep retreat was something that was, for me, quite a natural thing to do, because I was so, you know, I'm quite passionate about yoga, and I've been on retreats with Pam, you know, so I kind of, I'm not as, I've never wanted to be an actual teacher, but I enjoy yoga and everything about it, and the whole kind of, surrounding lifestyle around it. So, so basically the yoga and sleep retreat came about, and I don't actually know the point of where, and I'm going to talk about Pam, because Pam has been with me from the beginning, and Pam is an amazing person, and she is, she's been like a rock as far as I'm concerned, and we had Rosebud as well. So I don't know when that trio happened. I can't sort of pinpoint it, but we were the trio at the beginning, and we had meetings in the lodge. I mean, we were discussing how we were going to run these retreats, and Rosebud was always putting her word in, and she was...
That's wonderful, because Rosebud was a very passionate, spiritual, artistic, creative person who loved people.
Yes.
She was not just like individuals, but the idea people are wonderful things, and good people, and nurture the goodness in people.
Yes, she brought the best out of people.
She had a beautiful heart.
She had a beautiful heart, she really did, and we miss her desperately.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, we used to have these meetings in the lodge about the retreats. So that's going quite a long way back. We started the yoga sleep retreats. Pam was in from the beginning, and we didn't have the garden wing then, so we had very small numbers, and we used to do it in the schoolroom there, and we'd push the piano back and roll out the mats, and people just, and I suppose from the beginning also was the concept of people coming here and having their own personal space, so they're not sharing a room. So we're very much, I suppose, always going to be on the luxury end, but we've also got the courtyard stables, which is not, they're more kind of rustic. But the house, you know, people really, when they come here, they're really embracing the sort of whole style of the house, and the four-poster beds, and just literally lying on the beds and spreading themselves out, and not having to worry about, you know, people waking them up, or kids waking them up or whatever. So there's I went on a retreat before before I started the yoga and sleep, and I remember I booked quite late, and I ended up going into an Ashtanga training, yoga teacher training, which I had no idea I was doing, but anyway I booked it, and I really needed to get out of here, and basically they were full. That's right, so I had to stay in a B&B locally, and the group were lovely people, but I had to come in and out each day, and they were really lovely people, but they were all sharing rooms, and I was looking at the rooms, and they were all like piled high, you know, literally a bed.
Dormitory.
And I was just like, God, if I was going on a retreat, I really wouldn't want to just share with other people who are lovely, but you're going on a retreat because you're trying to get away from the chat, and you want to be able to reflect on yourself, and you know, all that sort of thing. So that's from the word go. Everyone's always had their own bedroom, unless they requested it. You know, sometimes there's the couple and they come together, obviously, and then there's sometimes there's two girlfriends and they share. So that's how the yoga and sleep was born, I suppose, in the early days. And Rosebud used to provide us with all these amazing salads. So I used to call her the Queen of Salads. Yeah, she was the queen of salads. She just used to turn up with these, you know, plastic pound shop bowls full of these incredible couscous and different, and she'd always make mountains of it. So I'd have to sort of, you know, ring up Ben and Jessica, or, you know, get people to take some, because we just couldn't get through it all after the retreats. And but they were always really commented on, and people were really, you know, just in awe of these salads.
It seems that the food was very important. I mean, here we are sitting in the engine room, the kitchen, which probably gets a lot of action in this house. I mean, I always remember it being the place you sort of went to first when you arrived to see what was going on, and then maybe you went off and did something else.
Yeah.
As a visitor, you know, like
okay.
sort of, you know, not
yes,
like a guest,
always,
but as a visitor. If I was coming to see Uncle Ben or something.
Yeah.
Or, you know, unless you got hijacked on the way past his office or something like that. But, But you'd come here and see what was going on. And the food is interesting, because oftentimes you go to even a very fancy hotel, but somehow the food looks fabulous, you know it's good, but it doesn't quite fill the soul.
Yeah.
But when you go, I remember having a meal with Rosebud, it's always fresh. The food is alive.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's created. And so that becomes a part of the experience. It's not like, it was a nice house and we had something to eat. It's like, oh, the food is great, and you feel comfortable.
Yeah. No, that's totally right.
And I know that you are a great chef, because I've eaten some of your goodies, because sometimes they come home in a doggy bag with that.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's, yeah.
Have you always been interested in cooking?
So, where did the cooking bit come in? The cooking bit came in, no, not necessarily at all. Definitely not that interested in cooking. And my mum wasn't that particularly good at cook. It's quite recent. And possibly when I decided I wanted to become a vegetarian, really. Was
that before or after the yoga and sleep had started? The veggie
I think I was a vegetarian when I married William.
Really?
But I've always...
That must have been a bit of a shock to him.
I remember, no, in London I never really ate meat, no. But I call myself an ethical eater, so I'm not necessarily a true-blown vegetarian, because I do delve into a nice bit of organic lamb now and again. But I just wouldn't go near any processed meat or anything. So basically, the cooking thing just came about very latterly, actually, and I soon realised that, as you say, you know, with the kind of Rosebud style cooking, or making the salads and all that sort of I became very interested in nutrition and what was. And I don't know if that's an age thing, or whether it was well, obviously, I suppose, to do with the yoga and sleep, it was more of a business thing, because I was in the kitchen. I used to do all the kind of main dishes, and Rosebud did the salad, so there was a bit of a combination. And obviously, as you know, she got very sick, and more and more I had to keep, I took on more then. So, and now I do it all. I mean, I have help, and it's great. I'm very picky about who comes and helps me in the kitchen, because I like to have a really chilled atmosphere, because I can't deal with stress in the kitchen. So I have this wonderful Gintari who she's my actually housekeeping kind of manager, and but she's a very good cook. She comes and helps me sometimes, and just basically chopping a lot of, as you know, with vegetarian food, it's a lot of chopping, and then sourcing it. Over the years, I've very much taken the Ayurvedic angle, which, as Pam says, is kind of common sense, really. But a lot of people wouldn't understand the Ayurvedic sort of lifestyle, or that some people have never even heard of it. So it's nice to be able to explain to people that it is really quite important to eat within the seasons, and you shouldn't be eating. I know that avocados here are just non-existent, but you should try and keep within the season. So I have a book that I kind of use as a guide when I'm cooking, and so I try and cook dishes that are relative to the season. That's kind of the sum of it. I don't go all into the Ayurvedic thing. I do the spices, so I really like those spices that they have a thing called the everyday mix, and they have actually specific spices for the specific seasons as well. But I just do the everyday thing, and they're just lovely to sprinkle on your food or have on your porridge or whatever. So it's just something new for people.
Yeah.
And then I've more recently I've got into the fermenting.
Right. Fermentation.
Fermentation.
Yeah.
So
like
sometimes
kombucha.
it's a bit like the science lab in here. Yeah, I've got the kombucha.
Are you fermenting vegetables as well?
I'm doing a bit of the kimchi.
Yeah, very good.
And you produced the most amazing cabbage the other day. I wish I had those kind of cabbages. My cabbages are just so disappointing.
The slugs like them.
Yeah, but I mean, my cabbages are tiny. They're only about that size.
We have
anyway,
those too.
Yeah, so I might try and do a bit of kimchi with those because they're not going to look that pretty otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I really like the kimchi. And I do kefir. So I just do the kefir, the sourdough, the kombucha for the moment. So I haven't really gone any further than that on the vegetable.
But even that is a base which
preserved
really
lemons
must make a great difference to people when they're here.
Yeah.
Because that sort of food helps settle the body.
Yeah.
Calm the body.
Yeah. I think
which
it nourishes.
fits with perhaps the sleeping aspect of what you're doing in the retreats.
Possibly, but you've got to bear in mind as well that a lot of people who come to the retreats aren't vegetarians. So I'm always kind of conscious of that.
Do they say, where's my meat?
No, luckily they haven't. But they have actually said, God never knew that vegetarian food could taste so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's interesting that. So basically, I maybe converted a few people along the way. I'm not
well
sure.
Done. That's fantastic. I'm sure you have.
I don't know.
I mean, you've
but
had an influence on our household from a distance because, you, I think, I don't know where Pam got her kombucha, whatever, slobber.
Oh, she probably got it from Lorraine, I'd say.
Maybe, but
yeah.
I'm sure that you
mine.
have been a great influence on her.
Yeah, no, I got mine from Lorraine.
Okay.
So, so it's evolved. The kind of food side of it has evolved, and it's kind of interesting experimenting, and I like changing it all around because it makes it more interesting. And people, and now I sell some produce, so I have like granola and pestos and stuff that I sell, and people buy them and take them home with them. So that's nice.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Yeah.
That's amazing because there's so many different things going on. To then add another little arrow in your quiver, it's quite a challenge.
Well, it's a nice thing, I suppose, for them to take away with them as well. And what's really lovely is, we're real sticklers for feedback here, so we send out we put out the feedback forms. But I have a sort of an in-joke with myself, because when people arrive on Friday afternoon or whatever, and they get checked in, and so most people are pretty blown away by the house, to be honest. So I'm lucky there, because I'm always that's always the worrying bit. Are people going to be okay when they check in? And a lot of people arrive quite stressed, and it's interesting to see that because the world is getting much more stressful. So they go up to their rooms, or they go for a walk or whatever, and then they'll go into the yoga, and then they'll come out, and I have this joke with myself that Pam kind of puts them into a trance. So they come out saying, "Oh my God, the food is so lovely." So I could cook anything and they'd still think it's lovely. But I don't know.
That's obviously not true. You're very
but
modest,
she's so I suppose on the arrival thing, she going into a class a couple of hours after you've arrived. Some people arrive late and they'll like just run in. You know, it's a really lovely thing to do. You know, when you've had a long journey or whatever, you just go into a yoga class and stop. Yeah. Pam sets them right, and they come out. They almost come out different people from that first class. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, the first night's dinner is always, you know, I'm always worried that, you know, that the group are going to gel and all that sort of stuff. But so it's amazing. Yeah, by Saturday morning, they're getting in already. Mm-hmm. It is only a 2-night retreat at the moment. Pam and I have spoken about doing a 3 or possibly even 4-night retreat, but that's another story. But I suppose because most of the people that would come here are coming from Dublin, it's like a sort of fix for them for the weekend. So they go back and they do feel by Sunday evening they're just different people. Mm-hmm. It is extraordinary to see, and it's quite satisfying to see as well.
Did you expect that when you started it? Did you realise that you were going to actually change people's lives when you started this crazy yoga? When I first heard the idea of yoga and sleep, I was like, really?
Yeah, I know. Because it's just such an extraordinary title.
This, it all sort of fits and in the context of one's own self-awareness and peacefulness.
Yeah. And Ali Bunbury, my sister-in-law, she's actually been a real advocate for the yoga and sleep, and she's always thought it was such a great title. And I do think, you know, SEO and search engines and all that, I think the sleep, I think it's really catch, because it's always right up the top of the search engines, which is interesting.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So what an inspiration. How do you deal with, you mentioned everybody, will they gel at the dinner?
Yeah.
Now, you never know who's coming, and you accept all groups.
Usually people come on their own. Some people come together.
You must have a range.
Yeah.
Ages and, you know, backgrounds. And I mean, sitting around the table and chatting is one thing, but then sitting in a yoga room, because I mean, obviously you've been doing yoga for 20, 30 years. You know what it's like. You go into a class, you can be doing hold your breath and touch your toes, or you could be, you know, put your foot behind your head.
Yes.
They're different.
Yeah, well, I think Pam is good at sort of putting people at ease, and I think she raised a few points the other day when we were, unfortunately, as you say, she can't be here, but basically, you know, it's been such a challenge for her over the years coming in, because normally she'd have her regular classes, and then she's faced with people coming in who she's never met,
right? And
they send these forms in, and then she matches the forms to the person, and and then they're all different standards, and some have got past injuries, and you know, she's got to take so much into consideration. I mean, they are small groups, that's the only thing, so that you're not talking like 20 people, you're talking maximum probably 12 to, I think we've only ever gone to 14 people for the yoga sleep. So and the retreats, they run through the winter, so and I think that's quite important for people to have that during the winter, and I've noticed that when people come during the winter, how much they sleep, which is really fascinating, because I mean they're hibernating. It's like they're hibernating.
And they sleep.
They sleep all day.
In the spring and summer, or
yeah, we do.
And do you find they sleep more in the winter?
Yeah, definitely.
And it's not just because it's dim.
No, I think they sleep more. They go to bed in the afternoon and they sleep all afternoon. And then they get up and they do their yoga class, and then they have dinner, and then they go back to bed and they sleep all.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're really releasing something in people by this whole process. This whole of the food and the meditation and the movement and the atmosphere and the comfort of the room and the opportunity to be on your own and not be looked at by other people in a public space.
Yeah.
And they are just finding themselves and saying, okay,
they're treating themselves.
Switch off.
Yeah.
Recharge.
Recharge, literally. Yeah. They are recharging themselves, and I suppose it's the whole thing. It's not just the food, or it's not just the yoga. It's the whole weekend. Yeah, but I mean, I never realised that it would be such an impact, because at the beginning, it took a while to get the word out there. And we struggled to fill the weekends sometimes, but now we're the opposite. We have to put extra ones on because we can't. I'm very conscious all the time that I think if you start going over 15 people, the dynamics change.
But it's very interesting when you mentioned the challenge of using the groups, because it seems that if one had a very large group, you could kind of say, well, I'm just going to standardise it, because the group will assume that there's a range and they'll have to look after themselves and accept it. But when you're in a small group, that's a bespoke engagement. It's a sort of, they would expect, oh, well, look, can you take care of me a little bit? Because there's only a few other people in here. So just, I have this little problem. Can you help me with my little problem? And they'll all be doing that. And
so Pam quite often is talking to them after the class, but she's able to give them that time. And then some of them have a treatment.
Oh, that's
so nice. That's another angle.
Are we talking recreational pharmaceuticals, or what is a treatment?
We have a treatment which we have this wonderful woman called Bernie. Do you know Bernie? Bernie from Tullow. She is, what's Bernie's? Bernadette Byrne from Tullow. She used to have a business in Tullow called Skinner Joys.
Oh.
And she closed it, and she now works from home. And she comes here, and she is the most amazing person. She's just all smiles and positivity. And people can book a treatment, and they can get a nice reflexology or massage or whatever from Bernie. But that's all in advance, and that's the ultimate kind of cream on the cake, or whatever, cherry on top. So Pam quite often, I think, treats the Saturday afternoon class as a very kind of gentle class, because she's like, all these people are kind of just sort of some floppy at that stage.
Well, I mean, just quickly before we move on, do you get people who haven't done yoga? How do you deal with the person who is sort of anti-yoga? Do you attract people like that, or are people coming to try it out? I mean, I've done yoga, which I find a bit strange for myself, because I used to be definitely anti-yoga. Of course, I used to be anti-vegetarian too, and look at me now.
But anti-yoga? But why? What do you mean anti-yoga?
Because I'm a prejudiced, entitled, privileged capitalist tool. And anything that isn't hard and to do with money is wrong. So people who do floppy yoga and eat just vegetables, well, obviously that's not right.
Well, actually, it's what is it they say? 22%. Is it 1 in 22? If you're a vegetarian, you have what is the statistic? It's something like you have 1 in 22 less chance of going to a hospital than a meat eater.
Yeah. Well, I didn't realise that when I became a vegetarian, but I am way healthier, and I don't get colds, and I don't go to the doctor.
Because your digestive system is completely...
Well, you know what my liquid digestion, my liquid diet is like, so it's quite surprising, because I do push myself, and I'm not a careful eater. But just that, and it surprises me, because I am meat and potatoes. My parents still think it's strange that I don't have steak for breakfast.
Wow.
So I commend you, but I do find it interesting that you know, how does one attract a person like me?
Yeah, so...
Sleep is attractive. I will tell you that. Sleep is attractive.
Well, I can't leave that. I can leave that to the journalists, to be honest. But I have had a wonderful... She's kind of a friend, and she came here to a retreat just recently, and she would be very much a meat eater, very much not a really yogi person at all, but she just wants to come because she needs the break.
Right. And so I suppose it's those things that you described at the beginning, where you had your space.
Yeah, definitely. It's the head. It's all the head
space.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
And I can resonate with that, even though we're surrounded by space here. It's so important to have that head space, especially in technology world that we live in. So attracting the non-yogas or the non-yogis or the beginner yogis. I have a sort of standard email that goes out when I get an inquiry, and basically that would explain to people about the weekend and explain that, you know, we welcome beginner yogas. And then if they pick up the phone and talk to me, I'll explain to them that it's actually a really good way of kick-starting your yoga practice or rejuvenating your yoga practice. So, you know, you can take home a few of the moves and just be able to practice from home.
Cool.
So, you know, it's a win-win.
So looking to the future now, tell me if I'm wrong, but I get the feeling that the nature of what you're doing in the yoga and sleep retreat resonates quite a lot with Emily inside, the Emily that is in here.
Yeah, well,
now you started talking straight off almost about business, and maybe you're a business kind of person, but you've mentioned things like long-term vegetarian, long-term yoga, spiritual, but not. Now that for me is a picture of a person who is not on the traditional path, but somebody who is in fact looking to life.
Yeah, I've always believed, I think my ancestors were Quakers, so I've always believed that on my father's side, and I've always believed that basically if you have enough money and a nice lifestyle, there's nothing more that you need, really. I mean, you need a simple life, and as long as it works and there's money coming in
to pay the bills.
There's really no more to it than that. So, and a quality of life. So you're able to walk outside and enjoy the sort of, breathe and all that. That's it. It's just as simple as that. So for me, the future, I would like to continue with the yoga and sleep, obviously, but I would also like to do longer retreats. We're trying to change a few things up at the house and gardens, and I'm hoping that will give the opportunity to be able to do longer retreats. I mean, I have had some outside groups looking to come here as a destination. So
it's like corporate.
Yeah, corporate yoga, but more.
Well, I mean, when you say outside groups, it sounds like it's.
Well, it's more yoga agencies, but obviously at the moment that's kind of non-existent.
Yoga agency?
So they're basically travel agencies for yoga retreats.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, no.
Wow.
And it's becoming really quite big.
Wow.
Yeah, I think, but obviously not at the moment. But it's I've had a few people who have. So you go online and you say, I don't know, I want to go to India for a retreat, or I want to go to Ireland, or I want to go. So you get listed in the different countries. So we could go down that route. I mean, I suppose I prefer to work personally. I prefer to work with, you know, my own group like Pam, and I prefer to work with my other yoga teacher, because then you've got slightly, you know who you're working with. But if you're getting groups coming in, you don't quite know.
Oh, because the group would bring their teacher.
Yeah. So you're working with people who you've never worked with before.
So then you're just delivering rather a sort of sterile service.
And you're cooking.
Product.
Yeah.
It's not like you're part of it. It's a bit like the weddings, perhaps. We say, okay, fine, you can have this space.
Yeah.
Do your thing.
Yeah.
How did you compare, say, yoga and sleep to the wedding for you? I mean, are they...
Me personally?
Yeah. Like, where does it... Just probing in the soul of Emily.
Oh, my God. Well, actually, we've just had a wedding, and it's interesting because if I'm involved in the wedding, because I do a lot of the cooking sometimes, not the wedding dinners, but the night before and the brunch.
For the small group in the house.
Yeah. So if I get to know them and I'm involved with them, the family, then I kind of get into the weddings. And if I'm on breakfast, for instance, you get to know them, so it's different. But if I'm removed from the wedding completely and I'm just not, I haven't dealt with them at all, I find them much more difficult because I don't know who the people are. So I suppose it's a bit like having 150 people into your home, and you just don't know who they are.
Yeah.
So I think, and William is really amazing at connecting with people. He is amazing. So I kind of leave it to him, to be honest.
What a team!
So how do they compare to the retreats? The retreats are much more hard work for me.
Indeed.
Because
you're cooking.
Because I'm hosting the retreats, but I know all the people coming. I get to know them over the weekend.
Have you ever done a retreat? Have you ever done this lying on the floor? Have you ever done the shavasana and the yoga and sleep? Have you joined the group?
Joined the group? Yes, I have a couple of times. But just with family life and everything, it's got busier and busier. So I've had less and less sort of time in between cooked meals because I've got to do something with the kids or whatever. So I haven't been able to join more recently. The retreats are, I suppose, but if the retreats did go on longer and they did take off, I would obviously get a chef in to help me because I wouldn't be able to do it all on my own.
Right. Yeah. Because even cooking for 6 is quite a lot of organisation.
Yeah. I mean, I'm basically cooking for 2 days. I'm doing a lot of obviously doing the ordering and and then there's the garden. And what vegetable gardens, how much time they take, and then there's the whole that side of the business, and the wool garden is somewhere that I'd like to just develop into the retreats so that they, you could almost come here and
perhaps
go out and
a physic garden.
Do something.
Create a physic garden there, because it's set up almost already for that.
Well, so people get knowledge of what's going on out there.
Wonderful.
And possibly become more hands-on so that they get an experience of it. I don't know. I haven't really got to that stage yet, but but I think they would have to be in the longer retreats, because I think when people come here for a weekend for yoga and sleep, they're coming here to do exactly that, and that's it. They're not going to go out there and start weeding the garden. I mean, they're just not.
No, that's a different product.
That's a different product altogether. So, but it's. I always tell them to go into the wall garden, and I say, go and talk to the pigs, and go and have your moment in the wall garden and walk around there, because it's such a gorgeous space and that sort of thing. So people do that.
Well, that's great. It's great that it's flourishing and there's more in the future. It sounds like you do a lot for people, and you help people in the big smoke to get back to reality and find themselves, and
they ground them, I suppose.
And you provide a wonderful dynamic here for local people to engage with and share their talents, whether it be the masseurs or the vegetable grower or so. It's great to know that you've done 10 years and you're gonna keep
going.
More.
I know, keep on going. I mean, it is amazing to think that it's been 10 years actually.
Congratulations, Emily.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's team effort. Absolutely team effort.
It's wonderful. I wish you the best.
Thank you very much.